One of the most significant projects of the PE roads of Serbia is the construction of the bridge over the confluence of the rivers Kolubara and Sava on the section of the motorway E763 Miloš Veliki, section Surčin-Obrenovac. The main concrete bridge over the rivers Sava and Kolubara is in the total length of 1,581 meters and in the width of 29.2 meters. It is composed of two independent parallel structures, one for each direction of the motorway with joint foundations. The bridge has three independent structures, the accessing one on the left bank in the length of 415 meters, the one on the right bank in the length of 796 meters, and the main span over the river Sava in the length of 370 meters. The bridge structure had 87,305 cubic meters of concrete, 11,639 tons of rebar, and 464 tons of steel ropes for pre-stressing built in. The contractor was the Chinese company China Communications Construction Company. The value of the works is $233,669,280. Construction works were executed every day by more than 230 workers employed in two shifts. Prior to the beginning of construction of the reinforced concrete structure for the new bridge, a temporary steel bridge structure was erected and assembled in the length of 968 meters for an easier and faster construction of the new bridge. A temporary steel work platform was constructed laterally to the scaffold bridge as a bridge widening for a better access to the foundation. In that way, all 5 planned cofferdams could be constructed for the purpose of construction of bridge piers in the axes in the river Sava and for 4 cofferdams in the river Kolubara. During the preliminary works, piles were constructed first beside the temporary steel bridge. The total of 334 piles were driven, 150 and 200 centimeters in diameter, with 174 of them on the right bank of the river Sava, 90 on the left bank and 70 in the river Sava. The most complicated and extensive works were executed in the river Sava, where piles in the length of 39 meters and 200 centimeters in diameter were driven and 2 big footings were constructed for both bridges with the dimensions 40 by 14 by 4.5 meters, with 2,100 cubic meters of concrete built in for every footing. The works were continually executed within 32 hours, with the engagement of 2 concrete plants, 2 concrete pumps and 15 concrete mixers. When it came to concrete works and footings this big, particular attention was paid to the concrete temperature, which can rise to 85 degrees Celsius during hardening. That is why the low-heat cement was used and thermal insulation of the formwork and the visible part of footing was also installed. Temperatures inside the concrete block on the formwork, beneath and behind the thermal insulation were regularly measured so that protective measures for the concrete against damaging could be monitored due to high temperatures. Measurement has shown that the concrete temperature was from 46 to 49 degrees, so the proposed measure proved to be very efficient and recommendations for concrete works on massive footings were fully adopted. The construction of the river footing secured the conditions for the construction of piers and the assembly of a substructure for the formation of a new zero segment on the left and the right river pier. After the construction of the zero segment, conditions were fulfilled for the assembly of the equipment, the supporting structure for suspended formwork for modular construction. 2 2 sets of mobile scaffolding and formwork were made, enabling the construction of segments of reinforced concrete box girder in the length of 50 to 60 meters on the left and the right bank, where the girder between the 2 piers is cast on the spot. The bridge fabrication facility, weighing around 700 tons, represents a sophisticated steel structure with formwork and mechanism for moving the supporting structure after the concrete works from one onto another construction field. By concreting the footings and completion of the piers and the installation of 2 cranes on the piers and 2 sets of movable scaffolding and the MSS system, conditions were created for the execution of works on the main spanning and the bridging of the main course of the river Sava, which is 540 meters wide on that spot. The main concrete bridge over the river Sava is 370 meters long, with 3 spans whose dimensions are 97.5, 175 and 97.5 meters. The main span of the box girder cross-section has a variable geometry, with the structure above the piers 10.5 meters high and the girder in the central part of the span 4 meters high. The dimensions and the spanning fulfill the conditions for the waterway defined for the river Sava. The works on the main span were the most demanding for execution due to the complicated construction, the great quantity of the materials for installation, difficult access to the foundations and elements of the bridge. On each of the piers, 2 parallel segments of the bridge were constructed at the same time. 2 sets of equipment were installed left and right of the piers using modular construction in order to build the main span segments with dimensions 4.5 and 3.5 meters. In order to keep the equipment and the weight of the structure in balance with the pier, 2 sets of structure were installed on the piers 10D and 11D to provide continuous and parallel construction from the piers towards the center of the bridge. In that way, the condition of the 2 structures touching and connecting above the river at one point and the bridge structure converting from one into another static system, from a balanced module to a continuous girder. Parallel with the construction of the main span structure, access structures with special equipment were constructed, together with a portable bridge fabrication facility for construction of one bridge structure with a span of 45 to 55 meters from pier to pier. Works were executed on the left and the right bank of the river Sava, while in the beds of the rivers Sava and Kolubara, foundations, pillars and supporting beams on the access structures were completed, enabling the construction of the access bridge structure, previously pre-stressed reinforced concrete structure. Every field of the access structure with a span from 45 to 60 meters has 650 to 750 cubic meters of concrete installed, as well as almost 100 tons of rebar and pre-stressing cables. The construction of one access structure field lasted from 17 to 20 days on average. Thanks to good organization, successful execution of all complex and demanding works, which depended on the external atmospheric and hydrological conditions, that is, the water levels of the rivers Sava and Kolubara, the bridge was completed before the contracted deadline. Section Surčin-Obrenovac, embellished by the bridge over the rivers Sava and Kolubara, was opened for traffic on St. Nicholas Day, the 19th of December 2019, thus completing the full profile of the motorway E763 Miloš Veliki from Belgrade to Preljina, which intersects with the Belgrade bypass at the interchange Surčin.